You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. 3 months after a Spotsylvania County Deputy shot and severely injured 32-year-old Isaiah Brown here in Virginia, a special prosecutor has announced 2 felony offenses against the officer. Deputy David Turbyfill is charged with 1 count of felony unlawful wounding and 1 count of reckless handling of a firearm with a serious injury. Turbyfill faces 1 to 5 years in prison and a fine up to $2,500. Joining us right now is the attorney for the Brown family, David Haynes. David, welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you.
Take folks through this in terms of what happened here that has led to this officer actually being charged.
Well, this is an extremely strong case. We're pleased that at least we have, the grand jury did return a bill. We would like to see stronger charges. But what happened was Isaiah Brown had gotten a ride home from a deputy. His car had broken down, and it was late at night. He needed a ride home to his grandmother's house to retrieve his other vehicle. And he was calling that car. He couldn't get the keys to that car. Long story, he got on the house phone, called 911 again, and then he was out front of his house, his grandmother's house, in the middle of the street, on the house phone with 911 when the deputy showed up, made a rash, irrational decision, thought that the house phone was a gun, told him to put his hands in the air, the dispatcher had, which he did, and he fully complied with. And the deputy shot him 8 times. He was unarmed. He had a house phone. And, it's a miracle that he's alive.
Wow. And also, I remember this story, and when they called him, was he arguing with the brother and the dispatcher? They sound like they knew him. Like that was history here.
There was some history. He had, in fact, his car had broken down. He'd gone to a gas station. They weren't able to get the car, so he'd actually been given a ride by another deputy for 30 to 40 minutes over to his grandmother's house, which was a nice deed that this other deputy had done. Isaiah was very calm, cooperative. He was listening to music on his phone in the back of the car. So the 911 operator knew him from earlier that evening. It was not 5 or 10 minutes later that he called 911 again. He tried to get into his house, get the keys. The keys were locked up. His grandmother was out of town. He had an argument with his brother. They asked him if he had any weapons, that he had any guns on him. He clearly said no. Walked out into the front yard. He was out in the street. At this point, the officer pulled up. There had been a miscommunication, we believe, with dispatch due to some earlier comments. And he sees this house phone, sort of a larger cordless phone, much bigger than a cell phone, I guess, up to his head. And he says he's got a gun to his head. He says that to himself and to dispatch. But the dispatch officer had told him to put his hands in the air, which he did. So he was clearly no threat at all, unarmed, has his hands up in the air. He's obeying all commands. And this officer didn't wait for backup. By the way, now we know this officer's name because it came out yesterday. He'd been on the force maybe 9 months. And instead of waiting for backup or, further surveilling the situation, taking cover if he thought there was a threat, which, of course, there was none, he ordered him to drop the gun, which was a phone. And he kept his hands in the air because that's what he'd been instructed to do by 911. And so because the phone was up in the air, he shot him 8 times. 6 of the bullets are still in his body. It's a miracle that he's still with us.
And these are the kind of stories that are absolutely crazy. When you hear people talk about training, when you hear them talk about these split decisions, I mean, you're right. It's a miracle that Brown is still alive.
Yeah, training's huge. As I mentioned, until yesterday, we couldn't get his name. We have asked for some basic employment information. When did he join the force? When did he graduate the academy? Has he ever discharged his firearm before? Has he ever been involved in any use of force? We don't know any of that. Until yesterday, we just got his name. It appears that he's a 2020 graduate of VMI, which is a military college in Virginia, had been on the force probably 9 or 10 months. And, it raises a lot of questions about training. It raises questions about crisis intervention. This was an individual that, he did need some help. It was basically just basic assistance. He's got some mental health issues. And so instead, we're dealing with these issues, particularly among individuals of color in our communities of color. This is no coincidence, right, that this is happening all over the country to a particular group of people. And instead of dealing with this on a crisis sort of situation or helping them out, we're dealing with it with a gun and bullets from a law officer who's holding a service-issued weapon by the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it's just totally unacceptable. It's got to end. We've got to do better. We've got to do better for our communities. We've got to do better on training. We've got to do better on police practices and procedures. We can't continue having these incidents in our country.
Amazing. Well, look, we certainly will see what happens in this particular case if it goes to trial. But it's just, again, we're thankful that he wasn't killed in these actions.
It's true, and he'll live with it, mentally, physically, psychologically. Of course, his life will never be the same. He's very strong. He's a fighter. I'd like to thank everyone out there, all your viewers, for the prayers and the well wishes. And he's got a great attitude. He's an inspiration. He's going to keep fighting, and we're fighting for justice for Isaiah Brown and all the other victims. All right, then. Look, please certainly give him our regards, as well as his family as well. David Haynes, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Roland. All right, folks. Back to that Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.